Oh no!
Hello again, everyone. I'm Germain, host of INFOcus People and Places. We've got another terrific show for you. Fun and informative stuff. We've got a little bit of everything. We'll be talking to our former intern here on the program, Alexandra Larrow, who is now a first-year student over at Middlebury College and a possible contestant for Miss Vermont. We'll talk to her about what's going on with her these days. Alex Larrow coming up in just a bit. Also, we will be talking with our Jack of all trades, who is not named Jack. He is named Ben, so he is Ben of all trades, our handyman. He will be here on the program breaking out the spackling and fixing holes in the wall. So if you've got any kind of blemishes on your walls, perhaps even your ceiling, who knows, maybe even your floor, we will tell you how to fix those things coming up with Ben Vessa, Ben of all trades, right here on INFOcus. When we come back, making a return appearance, another ghostly appearance on the program. He will be here in human form, in spirit. He is author David Pitkin from Chestertown, New York, with Aurora Publications. He's working on some new stuff. He's going to tell us all about that and maybe even share some of his really cool ghost stories with us. When we come back, author David Pitkin, when we return on INFOcus, People and Places.
When you become a pheresis donor, you play a special role in helping to save lives.
There are patients among us who need platelets and other blood products each and every day. Perhaps it's a cancer patient undergoing chemotherapy, or maybe someone receiving an organ transplant.
And since platelets last only 5 days, the need for platelet donors is constant.
Please consider becoming a volunteer pheresis blood donor. Call 1-800-GIVE-LIFE for more information and to find a donor center near you.
Welcome back, INFOcus People and Places. Almost failed to mention it, our website, it has been shortened a little bit from that long version that we had. So for all you people out there who have just been racking your brains trying to remember it, we're going to try to help you out a little bit. It's INFOcusVT.com. INFOcus, abbreviation of Vermont, VT.com. And information on past shows, current shows, and future shows, everything you could possibly want. Understand my first guest today now finally has a website, and we'll have a link to that through INFOcusVT.com. Author David J. Pitkin from the Adirondacks is here, Chestertown, New York. Thanks for trekking over again, David. Good to see you.
I enjoy it. It's always a nice ride.
You must enjoy it. I mean, you come back every time I ask.
Well, I never miss a chance to stay in touch with Vermonters, and I'm gathering stories for a book of just New England ghost stories. Probably be out in the fall of 2009.
Yeah, that's something we
so
want to
I'm
talk
hoping
about
that
for
maybe
sure.
some of the viewers might get in touch with me and let me know if they've had a ghost experience.
You've talked with many, many people about ghosts.
Yes.
Ever had any reluctant people? Any people that really are a little wary of talking about what it is you like to write about?
I think many people are afraid because we generally don't talk about ghosts, either in raising families or in public. And so people are wary of being singled out, of being made fun of, being humiliated. I think that's one of the big fears. So people tend to share these stories only with trusted individuals.
But wouldn't you say now with it being the 21st century, I mean, they're all over TV. They're all over the media. Ever since I think the X-Files came out, I mean, it's maybe been a little bit, I don't know, cool, hip to admit you've seen something.
But not everybody watches.
Not every.
them, though,
Well,
you
I know.
Yeah, but the exposure is much greater today, and
it's not as strange.
yes, and there's
to
a
talk about that.
generational change now among people under 30, much more inclined to believe in ghosts and UFOs and things of this matter, and people over 40, I think they just kind of hold it out there and feel free to disbelieve.
Right.
Yeah.
I've asked you this before, but before we get any further into the program, let's explain at least the David J. Pitkin explanation for what spirits are, ghosts.
Sure. Well, if I was to pull out my pistol right now and shoot you, and
Please
Jerry,
don't.
No, I won't. But Jerry tumbled onto the floor, and we go over and give you a kick, make sure that you're dead. So what happens when an individual dies? We say when they die. Essentially, the energy leaves the body, not necessarily all at once. It may take a period of time, but the energy is a form of matter. Most people would agree to that. Matter can neither be created or destroyed, so the energy that was Jerry Germain has to go somewhere or has to become something. And one of the major questions, does the consciousness, does the personality that was Jerry go with that energy? And it's my assumption that these things do, and that's why ghosts tend to have very individual personalities. Now, when people die, some of them tend to show up again or be perceived again as ghosts, and others you never hear from. And the question is then, why do some souls, if you will, why do some spirits remain earthbound? What is it that keeps them around, walking through walls or opening doors? And essentially we say that's unfinished business. It's something that the personality didn't conclude while they were still living in a physical body, and many of them are still trying to do it. And it's got to be very frustrating.
Sure, sure. You mentioned the soul, David. Talk about the religious aspect of this. I mean, there's going to be people out there that say, well, what about, the explanation from the Bible? Where does religion come into this? And I know you have some religious beliefs, and
Yes.
how does that play into all of this?
Well, to me, the prime thing about ghosts is that it's one of the best proofs that life goes on. Life can exist outside the body. And we certainly have a lot of literature over the last 20, 30 years about what's called the near-death experience,
Right.
where people have been certifiably dead. There's no more vital signs for a period of time. And then individuals will return to consciousness with amazingly similar memories and descriptions of where they were and what they experienced. So to me, I think that is a key. We have a great fear of dying. Most people do, because you don't know what lies beyond. I've done enough interviewing of people and doing research to be assured that life and personality do go on. To what eventually? I think we all could say that there is a heaven, there's a place of final rest. But that's what I like about spirits. Now, I grew up as a Roman Catholic. I was trained by the nuns to believe in a purgatory that was somewhere between physical life and eternal rest. Right. And it occurred to me some years ago that that's essentially, if purgatory is a place where souls or spirits are working out the things that keep them earthbound, concerns about love, about finances, whatever it might be, trying to clear their good name in some instances, or just trying to come to the realization that in fact they have died. A lot of ghosts apparently don't understand or don't accept that their physical body that has been all they've known for all their life, that now has terminated. So, but to me, there is a period of letting go. The whole thing of being dead and then within a split second being either in heaven or hell, I don't buy that. But being in a purgatorial situation can feel like hell.
Sure.
If there are things that, because I think that there is a judgment that takes place. People who know about the near-death experience know about the tunnel, the white light at the end, and as people move into that white light, every event of their life is seen, you know, and observed in a judgmental way. That, gee, I could have done better. Or look at the opportunity I missed out on. We find this with suicides, with ghosts of suicides who remain at the place of suicide for long periods of time. My first ghost was a man who had hanged himself in a barn loft 30 years before. And he was still there taking his last walk when I encountered him. And that was at a time I didn't believe in this stuff. But so that there is a period of transition, period of cleansing, cleaning, therapy, if you will, that goes on following body death.
Talk a little bit more about your encounters. I've talked with other authors, other people who write in this genre, and they haven't necessarily encountered anything themselves. But you have had some firsthand experiences, and you wanted to talk a little bit about a ghostly hitchhiker?
Well, but see, my first experience was 40 years ago. So over that time, I've kind of gotten closer to the subject matter. I've interviewed people. I've gone on what might be called ghost hunts. But at the same time, I've tried to understand the big picture of what this post-death phenomenon is. When I was relatively new to this would have been in 1976. I was about 8 or 9 years into my interest in ghosts. I was driving to Bennington from Troy, New York, coming across, and when I got outside the city of Troy, it was a nice sunny day, and you could see quite a distance to this hilltop, and at the hilltop was a man standing with his thumb out. There used to be a lot of more hitchhikers in those days. And so you kind of look him over as you get close, and I could see he wasn't just standing there, he was weaving there. He was wobbling back and forth, and I figured he was high or he was drunk or whatever, which doesn't make for a good passenger. And so as I zoomed by, scratching my head, of course, I went by, I got to look at he was the worst looking human being I've ever seen. I mean, horrible complexion, clothes that couldn't have been in the washer in months, his hair totally unkempt. And so I shot by over to Bennington. I did my the work that I had to do over there, and then I turned around and came back. And just as I broke over the top of the hill, here's this guy. He's crossed the road, and he's now thumbing back toward Troy. And I had just said to myself, and I'm not going to pick him up this time either, when the rain came down in sheets. And I thought, oh boy, you know, I did one of my eye rolls because I couldn't leave the guy sitting out there in the rain. So I picked him up, and he got in, and I said, where are you going? Troy? Troy. I said, oh, you're going to Troy. Albany. Oh, you're going to Albany. Troy. And I thought, oh my goodness. And by now I could smell that he smelled like a brewery. I mean, this is a totally, can't even think of the right word. This is a guy I didn't want in the car. But nevertheless, so as the rain continues, we drove on down to Troy, and the rain stopped. And as we approached a place called Hoosick Street Hill, the top of the hill there, this fellow said, this is good here. I said, oh, you want to get out here? Yes. Let me pull into the curb, because if I let you out in traffic, you'll get killed. Right. So I pulled into the curb. He hit the door handle. The car was kind of tipped on an angle, so the door opened itself down, and he got out on his hands and knees up with his feet on the pavement and his hands up on the grassy strip between the highway and the sidewalk.
Right.
And that was the last clear image I had of him, on his hands and knees, trying to stand up, I guess. I assume he stood up. What I was concerned with, he didn't close my car door. So, and I've replayed this in my head thousands of times, just first off to make sure, did it happen? I figure 4 to 6 seconds for the whole thing to transpire. I reached over, pulled the car door shut, slammed, sat up straight, put on my blinker, checked the mirror, everything's clear. I turned my wheel, and then I thought, where is this guy? You know, 'cause the condition he was in, he could have been under my wheels. So I didn't go out into traffic. I stopped and turned. I couldn't see him, which convinced me that I better put it in park because this guy's under my wheels.
Right, right.
I got out and I looked underneath, nothing. Went around that side of the car, nothing, nobody. And I could see over 100 yards in any direction. He wasn't anywhere. There was no place for him to hide. He was gone.
Right.
And that's about as close to the edge as I've ever felt. That I went home, I didn't even tell my wife about this for a couple weeks because there's no explanation, there's no
Sure.
preparation for such an event. And eventually I shared it with a friend of mine in Saratoga Springs. This was a very psychic woman. And she said, oh, that was just a hitchhiker ghost. And I said, what's a hitchhiker ghost? She says, oh, they're everywhere. She says, I see them. I pick them up. I can't tell which ones are real. Sometimes they stay, sometimes they're gone. But she says, I talk to them all. And
So this is something that could be happening to us all the time.
yes, it could be. And you know, I've had people tell me with certainty, I've never seen a ghost. And I have to say, well, how do you know? Because the 2 others that I've seen, it's kind of like you're not looking specifically at them, but I might scan, be looking across the room. I might notice that, yeah, there's someone by that doorway. I might look over here, I might look back, and they're gone. And there's no place these people could go. So twice, I'll say they vanished. What took place in terms of physics, I couldn't tell you. But so how do you know whether you've seen someone? If someone suddenly vanished out of a crowd, you wouldn't miss them. If you all of a sudden vanished from sitting right there, I'd say we got a good case, you know.
And we'd have a good show, too.
We'd have a good show, yeah. So then I met a professor at the State University in Oneonta, New York, who had been collecting these stories. And he said, yeah, he had something like 3,000 hitchhiker ghost stories from all over the world.
Wow.
He said these stories are everywhere. Not that he understood them, he just collected the stories. And so I suppose if you were traveling through North India, you know, in your ox cart, you might catch someone and give them a ride and
Right.
have them vanish out of the hay in the back. So again, I don't understand who these individuals are. In my research for my second New York State book, I found a place west of Binghamton, New York, down by Pennsylvania border, called Devil's Elbow, and Devil's Elbow really
Ironically.
was a big bend in the Susquehanna River there. But I have anecdotes for over 30 years from the State Historical Association of people appearing, disappearing, and very reputable people would pick them up. Police chief from Endicott, New York, picked up one, a minister and his wife, and they vary. Most of the time they're girls and they're in a snappy dress of something, prom gown or something like that, and it's very, very often it's a rainy night, and that's why the people will pick them up. And very often the hitchhiker will sit in the back seat, and so they'll drive down the road a ways, and somewhere within a few minutes to when they take this individual to her destination, they will initiate a conversation with her only to find her gone. In some instances, they've found rain water on the seat after
Right.
she vanished, in other cases not. I don't know what to do with these stories. I just find them fascinating. So
Yeah, I think it would make a fascinating book.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's a free idea for you.
Well, you could do a book on just hitchhiker
Sure,
ghosts.
I'm sure. What do you want your readers to take away from these experiences?
above everything.
Of reading your book.
Yeah. I think the most sublime thing I would like people to think about is that, gee, maybe death is not the end, you know, that life does go on. And so if death is a normal part of everybody's life, it doesn't require a lot of training or practice, you know, but enjoy and use the time you have to your best advantage before death.
All right, so you were working on some, I guess, I don't know if you're actually in the process, or at least you're thinking about it, working on some children's books.
Yes, I have two. One has to do with a Civil War horse. This was a horse named Moscow, a big white horse that was ridden by Brigadier General Philip Kearny, who was killed in 1862. But he was a one-armed Union cavalry officer. He'd lost an arm in the Mexican War, and he used to ride into battle with the horse's reins clenched in his teeth, and he's swinging his saber with his right hand. Well, he had a white horse named Moscow. He was an independently wealthy man, so he had a lot of horses, and he'd probably ride one until it was tired, get another one, and charge off into battle. He was killed having switched to a regular brown horse because a white horse on the battlefield made him such an easy target.
Sure.
And apparently his widow gave the horse to a school chum from New York City, a man by the name of James Averill, and James Averill eventually came to live in Rensselaer County, New York, east of Troy, and every year on Memorial Day after the Civil War, Moscow, with Colonel Averill riding, led the Memorial Day parade. And and he was well known up until he died, I think 1879. And but he'd been retired to the paddock, and they said, you know, he can't do the parade anymore. But came Memorial Day, and the band was warming up over at the parade formation site, and Moscow's ears pricked up, and the people say he jumped the fence. He knew those songs. He knew he was supposed to be at the head of the parade, and he ran to the parade site, had a heart attack, and dropped dead. And so I thought, well, that's quite a story of courage on his part, and he was a very spirited horse. And it's curious that if you go to Union Cemetery in Sand Lake, New York, here's the Averill plot, which is probably 30 by 30 feet, with James Averill and his wife buried on one corner. And then out in the center is the marker for Moscow, Civil War horse. He was buried with his master, which is kind of a rare thing. So that's one of the children's books. And then I have a story written by a young man who was very ill in his growing up years, asthmatic and so on, spent a lot of time in bed. But during one of those sieges, when he was 14 years old, he wrote a children's book, which is kind of like Dr. Seuss. It was in rhyme. It has some very neat, unique illustrations to go with it. But he had this congenital heart failure at times, and he dropped dead when he was a nurse anesthesiologist at Albany Medical Center. He's 28 years old. He just dropped dead one day, and his mother found this book among his affairs. So I'm trying to see if I can publish this book. I've changed some things around a little bit. See if, because I'm a self-publisher, you know, I do the. That's the scary thing.
Aurora Publications is
Aurora Publications, Chestertown, New York. Yeah,
is your business.
And that's what I do, and that's the scary part: to go print 5,000 or 10,000 books and then hope you're going to sell them.
So kids' books are in the works. New England Ghosts, 2009.
I'm hoping that.
And you're looking for contributions from Vermonters.
Yes, very much.
For this book, and they can get in touch with you at your website.
My website is,
which we will have a link to.
Yep, www.afterworld.info.
So it's
kind of a deadly site.
Well, speaking of, you could go to infocusvt.com, and we'll have all that information for people. So David J. Pitkin, thank you so much. We hope that some viewers out there in our viewing area will contribute to that. That'd be great.
Thanks, Jerry.
And we'll definitely have you back to see how things are going. All right, David J. Pitkin. When we come back, we will be talking with Alex Larrow, former intern on this program, trying to make it good as Miss Vermont. We're going to find out what is going on with her quest for that title and much, much more with Alexandra Larrow, fascinating young lady, first-year student at Middlebury College, when we come back on INFOcus, People and Places.
When you become a pheresis donor, you play a special role in helping to save lives.
There are patients among us who need platelets and other blood products each and every day. Perhaps it's a cancer patient undergoing chemotherapy, or maybe someone receiving an organ transplant.
And since platelets last only 5 days, the need for platelet donors is constant.
Please consider becoming a volunteer pheresis blood donor. Call 1-800-GIVE-LIFE for more information and to find a donor center near you.
Welcome back, everyone. As promised, our former intern from Virgins High School, intern here with INFOcus People and Places, now doing quite well as a freshman at Middlebury College. Here she is, Alexandra Larrow. And did I mention that you also, now, well, you were the reigning Vermont Junior Miss, correct?
Correct, yep.
All right, at this stage that this is airing, I don't know what the status is of that, but also we should mention that as of the airing of this program, you have just competed in the Miss Vermont pageant.
Right.
All right. just to confuse everybody. I'm confused already.
So am I, but that's okay. And no, I just gave up my Vermont Junior Miss title a few weeks ago, so that was exciting, but it was also kind of sad. So my year is over, but
Yeah.
that's okay. Seeley will have a great year.
And you had a great time down there. I mean, you've got a scholarship.
Absolutely. Yep. I had
As one of the finalists.
correct. Yep. I had a great time both in Vermont at States, and then I spent 2 weeks in Alabama, which was just fabulous. I had a great time, and then got an extra scholarship because I was a finalist in the competition.
There you go. You can't complain about that.
Of course not.
And for anybody who wants to see how she did down there, what it was like, all you need to do is go to YouTube, correct?
Yes, they actually.
Here's a little shameless plug for your YouTube appearance.
Awesome. They actually, America's Junior Miss did put YouTube clips of the top 8 finalists, both our talents and our onstage questions, so you can see them in all their glory.
You in all your glory.
Yes.
You look fabulous.
Thank you.
Now, you were one of the final. I mean, is this the furthest that a Vermont contestant has gone?
I believe in the early 80s, a woman who was Vermont's Junior Miss, I think it was around 81, she was also in the top 8, but other than that, her and I. So
Wow.
that was really exciting. I was glad to make Vermont proud.
Personal opinion, why do you think that Vermont's contestants don't advance along that as far as you and that woman from the 80s?
Well, I think part of the problem is the size of the program. This year we had 3 girls competing at States at Vermont Junior Miss. Last year when I competed, there were 4 of us total. But then in states like Alabama, you have to win a local program where there are probably 35, 40 girls. Then you have to go to your state program where there are 53 girls, and you have to win that before you can even get to nationals. So it's just it's a whole nother level of preparation. It's a whole nother level of Junior Miss, and Alabama's Junior Miss consistently makes it. As an example, other states are very similar. Consistently makes it in the top 8, and it's just a much bigger deal there.
A lot, yeah. I think that's it. It's a bigger deal in other states, but not to take away from your enthusiasm,
Of course not.
But I mean, there are some states that just
Right.
notoriously really, really push their girls.
Exactly, and and they don't necessarily push them in a negative way, but it's one of those things. I stayed with a host family in Alabama. All the Junior Misses do, and the 3 little girls, my 3 little host sisters, they were 8, 10, and 12. I could not wait to be Junior Misses. Like, that was their life goal. Like, they couldn't wait to not even to win, Alabama's Junior Miss, but they couldn't wait to compete in Junior Miss. And the youngest was like 7 or 8 years old. So she was
Wow.
already set. I'm going to be a Junior Miss. So it's just something that's such a part of their community. They also live in Mobile, which has been the home of Junior Miss for its entire almost 51 years that it's been in place. So
Wow.
it's a really strong Junior Miss community there.
So talk about your platform as Junior Miss. What have you been promoting the past year?
Well, what I've really been trying to do is to expand the program throughout this year. As Vermont Junior Miss, you don't necessarily need a specific platform like you do for, say, Miss Vermont or Miss America.
Right.
So really, it's just a matter of getting out there, meeting people, expanding the program. We did, during this year, during the actual Vermont's Junior Miss competition, the contestants and I went to an elementary school, read to some kindergartners. So, and in Mobile, we do service projects. There was an entire day of caring where they split all the 50 contestants into 3 groups. And my group brought a group of kids from the YMCA to a science museum. Another went to a day camp for children with cerebral palsy. So it's just a really great thing. And Junior Miss tries to really get their girls out in the community in a variety of ways.
Talk about preparation for Miss Vermont. You do have a platform for this, which is knitting a community through activism.
Correct.
What
It
is
is.
that all about? I know what the knitting is all about. That's something that's near and dear to your heart.
Absolutely.
No pun intended.
Right.
Hats
no
from
pun
the heart.
intended. Exactly. Hats from the Heart is a program my mom and I started, as you know. To date, we've donated just over 700 hats to
Wow.
hospitals, clinics, doctors' offices across not only Vermont, we've also delivered some elsewhere in New England. So that's been really exciting. So I really tried to incorporate that. But my platform isn't necessarily just about donating hats. It's about getting people involved in their community, being active, promoting activism in general, not necessarily, I don't want to limit it to people who can knit, who can donate
Sure.
hats, because some people I can't knit. Like, I'm trying to learn. I'm learning. I still can't make a hat, but, just getting out in any way, it can't hurt your community at all. It can only help. So I think that's really important.
And you're doing a lot of this from personal experience. I mean, you have been involved since, good grief, your high school days. I mean, you've been involved in everything.
They were so long ago.
Boys and Girls Club. I mean, you've been involved with everything. And now the Hats from the Heart. I mean, you've always been outspoken with everything. I mean, you've written for a local paper. You were on the radio with me. You've just been involved with everything.
Well, thank you.
Is there something you haven't been involved with?
Of course there is. I mean, I think there's always places for people to get out further into their communities. Something I'm trying to do since I've been at Middlebury. I've really been focusing a lot on school and sort of getting through my first
Sure.
year and figuring things out. But I have friends that are just involved in all these community service projects, and I just can't wait. Hopefully next year I'll really get delved into those and really get started doing that, so I can start not only working at, in Virgins, but expand to my college community as well.
It helps that you're close to home.
Exactly. I mean, I am only 20 minutes away.
A little unusual.
Very.
Now, you're involved with Miss Vermont now, and we wish you the best of luck there.
Thank you.
Rachel Ann Cole,
Yes.
the reigning Miss Vermont, is at Middlebury College as well.
She is.
Ironically,
She's a senior.
Yeah. Have you consulted with her at all? Have you pumped her for information on what to expect?
Not necessarily. I have met her a couple times. She is an absolute doll. She's such a sweetheart. Told me I can go visit her at school whenever I'd like. I mean, just the sweetest girl. I've been watching Miss Vermont for a couple years. I love to watch pageants and programs as much as I like to be in them. So that's always really fun. So I'm just sort of going into this with an open mind, just to get some experience, to meet some new people. I don't know most of the girls competing, so that'll be really exciting. Meet a whole different group of people. Just start getting involved in that program, because I've always looked up to the Miss Vermont program. I think
Right.
it's incredible. So I'm really excited to really be able to get involved now they're old enough.
And the directors of the Miss Vermont pageant, the organization, I mean, they're pretty much all former Miss Vermonts.
They are.
And they have really revamped everything now.
And they are wonderful people. I love them. They're so prompt. I'll email about some random question on my application, and Amy Johnson Jackman gets back to me immediately. So they're just the nicest people. They're always open to any questions that any of us have had. I've seen them at other events, and they're great people. So I'm excited to work with them throughout this competition as well.
Now, this is all about self-confidence, being sure of yourself, being prepared, and you pretty much always are. Let's just say 98% of the time, you know. Talk about, have you been able to make an impact on other teenagers in your life? People that are watching you and seeing what you do? Because I know there's so many teenagers out there that lack that confidence, and it will, you know, possibly affect them the rest of their lives. You've made the choice. You know, through experience, you've gained that confidence each step of the way, and here you are now. You could be Miss Vermont, going on to the Miss America pageant, representing Vermont. And not to put a lot of pressure on you.
Thanks.
But what is the secret of breaking out of the shell?
I don't really know if there is a secret. It's just, you just sort of have to force yourself to do it. When I started doing all this thing, for example, I absolutely hated calling people on the phone. I would do anything to not call people. And now I'm just so much more comfortable. It just comes with practice. Like, I can pick up a phone and I can call someone. You know, it comes with practice, and you just sort of have to force yourself to do it. And, you know, as far as other teenagers looking to me, I mean, I'd certainly like to hope that maybe they did or they have.
That hasn't really necessarily been your goal.
I mean, because I never really went into all of this thinking, like, I'm going to go be a role model. You know, I just sort of thought, this is what I want to do, and I want to help people along the way. And so it's just great to me to be, you know, in a restaurant with my family or somewhere in Virgins and have people stop me or stop my parents and be, you know, just congratulate me on the things that I've done. So I know that people in my community are paying attention, which is good. That's you know, I want to get things out there and I want people to become involved. So, you know, so it's really nice that they are doing that.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about your community, Virgins, Vermont, and the surrounding area. I mean, they definitely are supportive of you.
Absolutely.
Very proud of you.
Oh, when I was at America's Junior Miss, I got cards from just people in Virgins. It was so cool. I would come back from my long day of rehearsal and events and whatever, and my mail would be sitting on my host family's counter, and it would just be cards, not just from my mom and my dad, but just from people in Virgins. So it was so nice that my little town was really behind me, and I was really glad to make them proud. And I know that a lot of people were watching the finals, and so that was really nice to have that support.
And I would imagine a big entourage will be heading to the Barry Hopper house.
I think I'm up to 14.
There's 14?
I think I have an entire row at the moment.
Well, that's better than no row at all.
Absolutely.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to throw these things out there and embarrass you. Here's something I did not know about you, and as I admitted earlier, I've been stalking you online in preparation for this interview. And she looks at me very nervously. I did not know this about you in all this time I've known you, and you've been interning for us and everything. I did not know that Alex Larrow can wiggle her ears.
That is not okay.
That is not okay?
No, that is okay. I don't know what I was expecting, and that wasn't it. But yes, it's true, I can.
Okay. Any demonstrations?
Okay. Can you, like...
I didn't catch that.
Okay.
Oh, you can.
Okay, there you go.
Alex can
Apparently
do that.
my great-grandfather could do the same thing.
Okay.
So.
And I guess this is not as embarrassing, but I found out you have flat feet too, which affects your ice skating.
I can't ice skate.
You can't ice skate. That's okay. I fall down.
Find these things.
It's out there. It's out there. Just Google Alexandra Larrow and you'll find all these things.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay, that's
all right.
as far as the embarrassment goes.
That's not terribly.
I could have probably dug up more.
I'm not ashamed that I can't ice skate. It's okay. It hasn't really affected
with
my
all
life.
the scandals out there, you could have, it could have been worse.
I suppose.
Yeah. All right. So, with all the pageants you've been involved with, what has been your crowning achievement so far?
Being in the top 8 at America's Junior Miss, hands down. My roommate at National, Chantel from Nevada, we knew she was going to be in the top 8. They give out preliminary awards, and she had won a preliminary award in 4 of 5 categories. So mathematically, she had to be in the top 8. So we were really excited for her. So I was standing on the stage, and I didn't get any preliminary awards. So I was just sort of figuring, I'm the girl from Vermont. This is what usually happens. So I was just sort of standing there ready to cheer on my roommate when they called her name, and then they called my name before hers.
Wow.
Which was just so exciting. My host family almost died because there has never been a pair of roommates. We were there for the 50th America's Junior Miss, and there has never been a pair of roommates in the top 8.
Wow.
So that was really exciting. My host family just decided all the girls are going to want to live with them from now on. So my host dad actually had this like premonition the night before. We're all sitting at the table. They were feeding us, which is what happens all Junior Miss. I ate so much food. And he said...
That's not a good thing, is it?
It was fine. We were running around all day, and so it was good. My host family was fabulous, but he just said, you know, I have this funny feeling, Alex, that they're going to call your name first, and then they're going to call Chantel's. And I was 4, and she was 7.
Psychic.
So apparently, he had no idea. But so
might want to consult with him before, you know, you go to
I might
to Barry.
call him up.
By the way, you will be singing "Time to Say Goodbye."
Yes, same song I sang at Junior Miss. A little longer. It's a 2-minute talent as opposed to a 90-second talent. But it did well for me in Alabama, so maybe it'll do well in Barry.
Other things that you'll have to be looking out for? I mean, you're going to be doing the talent. What other areas are there?
Well, there's the on-stage question evening gown portion. There's a swimsuit in Miss Vermont, and there's also the personal interview, which is where I sit with the judges and they question me, very similar to this, for I think it's 10 or 12 minutes.
They won't be asking you about wiggling your ears, though.
I doubt it. I don't believe I put that on my application. So they probably won't know unless they Google me.
Okay, well, good. I feel unique then in asking you about that.
Well, thank you. I'm
All
glad.
right, all right. Worst case scenario, you don't make it. What is the future for Alex Larrow?
Alex Larrow will continue to compete in Miss Vermont. I mean, I can compete until I'm 24 years old.
Wow.
I'm only 18, so there's time. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not stressing about this. I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna have a good time. I'm looking forward to the experience. I've always been looking forward to competing in Miss Vermont, so I'm thrilled to be able to do this. So I'll just keep competing and keep enjoying myself, and I'm just looking forward to finishing my year at Middlebury and then having a great summer.
Well, you do realize that if you keep competing, you're going to have to keep coming back on this show and talking about it.
Then it might get a little repetitive after a while. It's the same competition.
I know, I can't
different
use
girls.
the wiggle your ears thing anymore. I mean,
No.
that's already been used
You'll
in
have
the
to
flat
find
feet.
different quirks, I guess.
I will. I'll have to keep scanning online for Alexandra Larrow. Alex, thank you so much. Best of
Thank
luck
you.
in Barry. That's April 26th for that. So, you know, keep your eyes and ears out to see how Alex does. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
On the way, you won't want to miss it. We are going to fix a hole in the wall. Yes, we are. We're going to be fixing a hole in the wall. Our jack of all trades, known as Ben, yes, Ben of all trades, returns to the program. I know you can't get enough of him. And he has holes in the wall of his house, so he has invited us in there to watch him spackle. I don't think we've ever spackled on this program, have we?
I never spackled while I was here. I was thrown in jail, but never spackled.
You would sparkle, though, but not spackle. Oh, well. All right, keep it right here. Ben of all trades up next as In Focus People and Places continues. A footnote, an update on our story on Alexandra Larrow. Congratulations are in order. Vermont's former Junior Miss 2007 and intern on this program was named first runner-up at the recent Miss Vermont pageant at the historic Barry Opera House back on April 26th. The Miss Vermont honors, by the way, go to 21-year-old Ashley Wheeler of Lyndonville, currently a senior at St. Michael's College, studying religious studies and political science. Being first runner-up is nothing to stick your nose up at, that is for sure. In the event that Ashley Wheeler cannot fulfill her duties as Miss Vermont, well, Alex Larrow would step in because she is the first runner-up. Again, congratulations to 18-year-old Alex Larrow of Virgins, first runner-up at the 2008 Miss Vermont pageant. Miss Vermont in our hearts. If you'd like more information on Miss Vermont, just go to our website. Check it out, infocusvt.com. More coming up. Keep it right here. In Focus, People and Places.
Hello, I'm David Pitkin from Chestertown, New York, regular guest on Jerry Germain's In Focus show. Some of you may be familiar with my book, Ghost of the Northeast, which has some real good Vermont ghost stories in it. I'm looking for Vermont ghost stories for my next book, which will be New England Ghosts, that should be out in the fall of 2009. if you have a good story and you'd like to get in touch with me, go to Jerry's website, infocusvt.com, for the details.
Welcome back, everyone. We are here with the becoming fast, the very infamous hole in the wall that we've talked about that we're going to fix. And we have brought in the expert to fix the hole in the wall. He's not here to cook for us, even though I'm disappointed because I'm hungry. I'm permanently hungry. What am I saying? He's not here to work on a weed whacker. He is here to fix the hole in the wall. We've got our Ben of all trades. That would be Ben. How you doing?
Very good, Jerry. How are you?
All right. Okay. People, I mean, they experience lots of things on their walls, their ceilings. I mean, lots of blemishes, let's call them. You could have water damage. You could have, you know, just somebody
Carrying
putting
a pole get through the ceiling.
Yep, by mistake, you know.
Yep.
Doesn't really matter how it got here or, you know, how it happened. We need to fix it.
Yep.
It's ugly. We can't have it there anymore.
No.
So what are we going to do?
Well, very basic. Just first of all, find out how big the hole is and see if you're going to have to really have somebody come in and put some sheetrock in. A smaller hole you can patch with simple spackle and a simple patch kit you can get at your local hardware store.
In other words, I mean, you have to see what kind of degree of difficulty it's going to be, whether you need to call in an expert or whether you can do it yourself.
Right. And with smaller holes, most of them you can do yourself with very simple tools. Some of the simple things are these simple self-adhesive patches. There's an 8-inch and a 6-inch square patch. You stick over the hole in the wall and you put some spackle on it and you do multiple coats and
there it's done.
It's gone.
All right, good as new. All right, so what about this hole right here?
Some of the other things you can use are these simple plastic trowels that are really inexpensive. It's not hard and it's not expensive to do.
All right, so let's look at this hole right here. Can you give us the diagnosis,
Well,
doctor? What needs to be done with this hole?
Well, it's a very small hole. It doesn't need a whole lot done to it. I'm going to use a smaller patch, 6-inch patch. You can see that it doesn't quite fit between the two door jambs. Well, actually it does fit, so we don't have to.
It looks pretty good.
It looks pretty good. Wipe off any extra dust, make sure there's nothing else there. Peel off your adhesive.
Now, do you have to worry about what's in the hole?
No.
How far it went through, or
if it was loose, I'd probably pull it out, but there's nothing behind there. I've already peeked in there. There's nothing there, just open, empty space, and instead of making more of a mess, you just leave it there.
Okay.
And then try to center this patch over the hole, and then lightly just stick it on. In this case, you can go right between the two door jambs. It works kind of nice. And just rub it on, and there you go. That's covered now.
The hole is covered.
If you needed to trim it, you could use just basic scissors. Trim it very simply. Utility scissors work really well. You want to, of course, use the widest trowel you can. In this case, a 6-inch would be better, but we have just a little, like 3.5, which would be fine.
What about safety issues? Let's talk safety. I mean, are there any safety precautions, goggles, anything like that
Well, you could
might
wear
want?
goggles to make sure nothing splashes up in your eye. When you're sanding with the dust and stuff, you want to put down some newspaper so you can vacuum up the dust afterwards. There's really not a whole lot of worries with this. There's nothing going to be flying at you. It's all at your own pace. You just go real slow and easy. And
of course, depending on where the hole is, how big the hole is.
How big the hole is and everything. And you want to make sure you put something on the floor because you do drop dablets on the floor so you don't make a huge mess. And this is just going to be the first coat. It's got to dry. You're going to have to probably do 2 or 3 coats and various stages. A little sanding in between time and just work it real slow. And thin coats is the way to go.
And again, this is lightweight spackle.
This is lightweight. It's really it's not that expensive. It dries fast and it works really well.
Okay. I'm assuming that there is a heavyweight
There's
spackling.
the regular old joint compound, the old style joint compound that you could use, but I prefer this just because it's nice, white, lightweight. And for the first coat, you just got to put just a little bit on just to fill the voids. And then later on, you'll sand it a little bit and then put a couple more coats on.
And this is all stuff that you can find at your local hardware store?
Yeah, I got this at the local hardware store right in town. Real simple. And as you can see, everything's just disappearing like it's supposed to.
Right.
Now you gotta be careful not to push too hard because you just push it right through the.
Yeah, you don't want to create another hole.
You don't want to create another hole, as well as the spackle will just go right through the screen.
And there's really not a danger of putting too much.
Well, too much will just take a lot longer to dry, and you don't want to take a long time to dry.
Oh, there we go.
That will harden up. You take a sand block and sand it down a little bit, and do a second coat. And
About how long would it take to dry? For this, for instance,
I'd
here?
do it tomorrow. Do it another day, like 24 hours. Let it sit at, depending on the temperature and the moisture in the house. Depends how long it takes to dry. It's good to say a day.
Okay. All right. So we will be back tomorrow.
Yep.
Check it out
Sure.
and see what it looks like at that point.
Sure.
All right. Well, Ben,
Hi there.
all right, we couldn't wait around 24 hours, so we are moving on to the next stage of patching a hole in the wall.
Yes, we are.
One question I have for you, though, what happens, I mean, we talked a little safety before, but what happens, like, if you've got, like, a hole where there's, like, wires and things that, could cause, some problems for people, some safety issues? What do you do in a situation like that?
Well, the biggest thing is to, first of all, don't go near them. Leave them alone, and then if you can see that they're damaged or have been hit hard, you're going to want to call your electrician and have it checked out.
Okay.
Make sure it's okay. In some cases, you might just see the wire going through there, and it's good to have it checked, but it shouldn't bother anything. Turning the breaker off would be helpful if you had to, but it's in the wall. They're in the wall. They're in walls all over the place. You just don't want to drive anything through it, screws or anything like that.
Obviously, common sense should be used.
Yeah.
Don't get cocky and think that you suddenly are a superior electrician.
Right, exactly.
And mess with something you shouldn't. Okay, well, we're not messing with anything dangerous here. Set up the stage right here. Where are we at?
We have another hole that was in the wall that first coat's been done on it. We're going to sand it a little bit and then put the second coat on it just to show you how that's done. Quick segment on just to see how easy it is.
All right, take it away.
Well, I put one coat on it, and it's still got some rough spots in it that I don't want to be there for putting the next coat on, so that I don't have to go thick. You want to go thin coats always. You can go to your local hardware store and buy these simple sand blocks. They're flexible. They're firm enough to stay flat. And you just sand your section off, just lightly. Any kind of humps or bumps you want to just take down. It doesn't take any effort. You don't have to push on it. You just gently just rub it over. And you can see that all the big lumps are gone already, and it's that simple. This obviously was a little bit bigger hole, has a little bit bigger patch. You're going to want to use a wider trowel to cover your patch so you don't create any wavers and wobbles in it. You can use a smaller trowel, but you're going to have lines to sand out and more work. Again, I'm just using a little bit of filler, little trowel. Load the trowel up. And then just simple thin coats. Sometimes if the hole's bigger, if you're doing walls and you want to feather them in real nice, then you can do 5 and 6 coats. You just thin coats, take your time, and it'll come out the best looking. If you rush it, it will not be smooth, it won't come out nice, you'll have a big lump in the wall. You don't want to have that.
And if you have to wait any kind of period of time for it to dry, obviously, if you have children or animals around, you're going to want to keep them away from it.
Yes, because they'll like to play with it or touch it, or hair will get in it or dirt or whatever, and then it just creates more work.
Okay.
Just very, very basic, very simple. A little bit of work, a little bit of time, and you can save lots of money compared to having it hired done.
Okay. And again, you'll want to wait another 24 hours for this?
Probably. Sometimes you can do it during a day if your house is very low humidity and you're running the temperature 70 degrees or better. It could dry, in a few hours. I recommend a day just because it's easier to make sure it's good and dry so you don't have any cracks or any problems.
Okay.
We're going to go to the final stage next of another one that's ready for its last coat. Possibly last coat, maybe just some sanding. Well, here we are back at the last stage of this hole in the wall. Hopefully this has helped out some people with a simple fix.
All right, quickly, Ben, bring us to this stage again.
This is the last stage, possibly maybe one more coat of covering this hole up to make it paintable. As you can see, the wall needs to be painted anyway, and the hole, so we have to do this.
That's something that you will do later on in your own time with no camera around.
Probably. But it just go through, and again, you have a sand block. You have two different grits. You have a coarse grit for the rough coarseness. And if you look at it closely, there's a couple little imperfections in it. I can feel it with my hand. You can use a straight edge and look at it. But just, again, just nice, simple motions. Simple. Make sure you have paper on the floor. When you're looking at it, you just look for little imperfections. Like I see a little line here, a little line there. You just want to try to get those out. You want to keep your block flat wall. No pressure, just real light. Just your fingers. Just keep working it.
And obviously, do not scrape it too hard.
No, not too hard, because then you'll go right through to the mesh, and you have to redo it. But that's feeling nice and smooth. There's no more ripples left in it. And that looks good.
And it's ready to be painted over.
Ready to be painted. Little coat of primer, and then your wall covering should cover it just nice. Might take a coat or two of primer just to cover it a little more.
Now, Ben, go over quickly, if you could, please, a list of the things that people would need to patch a hole again, the things that they could purchase at their local hardware store.
First of all, it depends on the size of the hole.
Right.
If it's a really large hole, obviously you might have to hire somebody to do that. There's ways to do it. It's not real hard, but it's somewhat technical on some things. If it's a small patch, you use these adhesive patches that you can stick on nice. You also have your spackle. I use the lightweight spackle because it's easy to use, it dries fast, and it's not super moist. It really spreads nice. Some simple trowels. You can buy these simple cheap plastic ones for small holes. Obviously when you get to the larger holes, you need a wider trowel. They even go wider than this depending on how big of a hole you have for the bigger jobs. And then you can use these simple sand blocks. These are, you can see this is flexible. It's all white right now, but you can wash this in water and reuse it. Really inexpensive, works well, does a good job.
Ben, thank you so much. That's Ben of All Trades. Ben Vessa with us today, showing us how to fix a hole in the wall, and I think we have accomplished that. Yeah, we've accomplished a lot on this program, and one thing that we certainly want to recommend, especially to new viewers on VCAM, Virgins, and Chittenden County area, if you have questions for Ben of All Trades, all you need to do is just send in those questions to benofalltrades@infocusontv.com. It's that simple. And of course, you can go to our website, infocusvt.com, for more information on Ben of All Trades, on past shows, current shows, upcoming shows, everything you could possibly want to know about this darn program. Once again, infocusvt.com. A big thanks to author David Pitkin for trekking over here from the Adirondacks. Remember, folks, he's looking for Vermont ghost stories. More information on our website about that, how you can contact him. Also, big thanks to our former intern and now student at Middlebury College, and who knows, maybe future Miss Vermont, Alex Larrow, for joining us. And of course, a big thanks to Ben of All Trades for fixing the hole in the wall for us today. That's going to do it for us here on In Focus People and Places for this time around. A very, very big thank you to you for tuning in. We want to let you know that we appreciate you out there. And again, you can go to infocusvt.com for more information on this program. I'm Germain, your host. Until next time, take care.